Welcome to tonight's webinar, Top 100 Shortcuts for Logos 8, Bonus Part 6. Tonight's topics, 1 through 7, we've been covering in the last 5 training videos. Tonight, we're going to get into customizing Logos, some time-saving strategies, and some must-know keyboard shortcuts. So let's get started. Let me jump over to Logos right away. Now, we're picking up with shortcut number 19. That's where we left off. And some of these are going to be familiar to you. Some of these may be a review. Some of these may be new. So hang in there as we go through each one of these. Now, this shortcut is customizing your guides. I did a whole webinar, guides, layouts, and collections. And the whole reason I did that particular webinar was to help you get a big concept. And the concept was this: you are overwhelmed by all the information that Logos throws at you. So how do you control all this information coming at you from all different places? Well, you do that in 3 ways. You first create collections, which control the source of your information. Then you create custom guides, which is going to control the flow of that information. And then you create custom layouts to control how you study that information. Now, we've already covered collections. So for shortcut 19, I'm going to show you how to create a custom guide. So we go to Guides, and then at the bottom right, you're going to see the New button. You want to click on that, and you want to choose Make a New Guide. Let me click on that. Now, as soon as you do that, you're taken to the guide editor. First thing you want to do is give it a name. So you just click there on Untitled Guide, and we're just going to call this Custom Guide Webinar. Something easy to identify it. Now, the way this works is you choose the kind of guides you want. More often than not, you're going to want to use the Bible reference where you can enter a verse. But you can do it by a word, preaching theme, theological topic, and topic. Now, when you change these, the information at the right will change. So if I go to Bible Word Study, you can see that my sections change. Now, I'm going to go back to Bible reference. That's the one I want to use. Now, let's say you want to create a custom guide to study theology. So what you want to do is first go through the list and identify those sections that can give you information. So the first one we see here is biblical theologies. We'll click that. And if we scroll down a little bit further, we can see confessional documents. Those are actually very theological, so we'll click on that. Scrolling down a little bit further, we can look for some more, and we come across this one, systematic theologies. Those are the 3 basic ones that I use. But there's also another strategy in your custom guides, and that's using the collections option. In previous webinars, especially in the Logos 8 training and 7 and the other ones, I walk you through how to create very specific collections. One of those has to do with theology. So I'm going to go to Tools, and I'm going to type in Collections. And I'm going to click under Library Collections to open it up. And I'm going to click on the Open icon. And I'm going to put in L8 minus. That's my Logos 8 collections. And you can see here under step 6, I have a systematic theology collection, a theological dictionary encyclopedias collection, a theological journals collection, and a theology all collection. Now, if you want access to all my collections, let me show you how to do it right now. What you want to do, we're going to digress here for a moment. You want to go to Docs. Next, you want to click Public. Now, if nothing shows up when you click Public, all you got to do is click out of here and then come back. It's kind of a refresh thing that Logos has to do. This can happen on a Mac, sometimes a PC. So to repeat, click off of it, go back to Docs, click on Public, and then in the top left corner in the box, type in LearnLogos.com. That will help you find everything that I have shared in the public domain. But to narrow this list down, we want to click on Resource Collection. And now you can see all the resource collections that I have created. And what you want to do is click on the first one, then scroll down to the bottom of the list, holding the Shift button down, click the last one, and that will select all of them. Or just click in there and hit Control A or Command A. Both will get you there. Then go up to the top right, locate Add to your Docs. Click that. Now you're going to see Logos starting to do this adding, and that'll let you know it's counting down. Once that message goes away, you've got all of them. Now, what you want to do next is click on Docs if it closed, and now you want to click on Yours. Make sure you go to Yours because we want to look at what's in your library, not the public domain. And now you're going to see all the collections. This is awesome that we can share these collections. Now that we have those collections, we can go back to our custom guide. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Collections, All Resources. And when I do that, I get a list of all my collections in my library. Now that you have these new ones, put in L8 dash, and since it's theology, put in L8 minus 06, no spaces. And now you're going to see all the theological collections. Now I do multiple ones, so I'm going to do this real quick so you can see this repetitively. So I have general theological. I'm going to go back to collections, click that again. All resources, type in L8 minus 06, and then I'll click historical theology. And I would repeat this process until I have all my systematic theology collections in there. Now I'm not going to do all of them. I just wanted to show you those two. Now, once you're done, close the custom guide webinar. I'm going to do that. Now let's open it up. So we go to guides. How do we find it? Well, I'm going to type in webinar because that was a unique word in it. You should see a menu appear, custom guides, and we have to look for custom guide webinar. We click it. Now we can put in our verse. I'll put in Ephesians 2, 8 through 9 and press enter or click the white arrow in the circle. And now Logos runs a report. Now, the first time you run it, every section is opened. Go and right click on the first section, choose collapse all from the menu, and now it's all collapsed. Now, remember, when you close this guide, whatever was closed stays closed, and whatever was open remains open the next time you revisit this guide. So good housekeeping is very important. So now we've got our custom guide, and it just gives us the information that we want in the order that we want. So this is a great way to control the flow of information. One more tip here. Very important that as you build this custom guide, you want to think of two things. First, what is something that you always want to see? If there's something in particular in the report you always use first, put that at the top. If you don't have a preference, then I recommend going from most concise to most in-depth. So for example, confessional documents are pretty straightforward. You might want to do that first. So you can actually drag that up and put it there. Collections tend to be pretty heavy duty, so I leave those at the bottom. And biblical theology is a little less in depth than systematic. So there you go. And now you can click and expand these and begin to utilize the information that's provided. So the custom guide is so important because if you open up, for example, guides, passage guide, and you guys have all done this, and you put in a particular passage like Ephesians 2, 8 and 9, you get a ton of information. This is just too much information at once. And if you're preparing messages and studying, it's some of this information you don't want at certain times in the process. So by controlling the source and flow of information, you're going to be able to organize your Bible study much better. And that leads us to tip number 18, a custom layout. And this plays hand in hand with the custom guide. And you know, over the years, this is how I've done all my training. You'll notice at the top of my shortcut toolbar, I have step 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way through 10. I have, actually 9. It's 10 steps, 0 through 9. And each one of these numbers represents a layout that includes a custom guide, a Bible, and other information I want for that step. But as you can see here, as I float my mouse, each step of my Bible study process is there in the order that I prefer. This allows me to be very consistent in my Bible study process, but also refine and improve my Bible study process. So I'm going to add my Bible, New American Standard. I'm going to click on that, and there it is. Now let's save this as a layout. So I'm going to go over here to the top right, my Layouts button. I'm going to click on that. Next, I'm going to click Saved as Named Layout, those words in blue. And I'm just going to type in Webinar Layout. And then I could press Enter or click the white arrow in the circle. Now, as soon as I do that, it's going to get put over here under the Saved Layouts. I recommend clicking and collapsing Quick Start Layouts and clicking and collapsing Homepage Layouts. And then expand Save Layouts. And it's alphabetical order, so if we scroll down, we'll eventually get to the webinar layout. There it is. And what you want to do, if this is going to be a Bible study step, is drag that to the shortcut toolbar. Okay? By doing that, we can now quickly access this layout. Now for this one, it's just systematic theology. So we could right-click and maybe put the letter S for systematic theology, or right-click and put a T on it for theology. And now I'm going to use the close all button at the top right, also known as the panic button. And we're going to close everything, and now I'm going to click my T. When I click my T for theology, my custom layout that I just saved will open up. There's my Bible at the right at Ephesians 2:8 and 9. And there's my custom guide. Everything collapsed at the left. These two shortcuts, custom guide, custom layout, is a great way to control the source, the flow, and how you study information. Absolutely critical, especially if you're trying to create a consistent Bible study process and get better at using Logos to help you find the information. This avoids being overwhelmed by all this different data in different steps of the Bible study process. So let me go ahead and close all by clicking once again on the panic button. Now this brings us to shortcut number 17, custom workflow. So let's go to guides, then click new, and let's choose make a new workflow. Now let's give it a name right away. So we're going to call this workflow webinar. And again, you can choose the kind of workflow, reference, word, English, lemma, etc. We'll do Bible reference. I'm going to click on that. Now, this is something new with Logos 8, and I'll be honest with you guys, the workflow is like training wheels. It's very tedious, it has some limitations, and it can get pretty frustrating. Plus, all the information gets saved in a note, whereas the other workflow, you're kind of getting the information, and then you would copy and paste that into Word or another document. Every tool has its purpose. Right away, we've got the author. We can put a description, pretty straightforward there. And then the first thing is you have to think about step-by-step processes. So these are very specific steps you will follow every single time. So there's less latitude. It's more controlled and more precise, which is why I call these training wheels. So let's say the first step, and just for the fun of it and being consistent, we're going to say study theology. Or we could say something like this, theological background. Theological background. There we go. Next, you click on the add button, and here's where you work through the menu to decide what elements you want to add under this step. Now, we could add a minor step, but we're not going to do that. We can add documents, expandable text, questions and answers, share media, share text, and text. Let's skip over those and go right to the sections. Notice that these are from the guides. So if we scroll down, there is biblical theologies. We click it. There it is. I'm going to add these other ones so it almost looks identical to our systematic theology custom guide. There's the confessional documents. We'll scroll down, add the systematic theology. There it is. And notice you can't put in your collections, which is really unfortunate. Let's say that's all we want to do. I'm going to hit done. Now our workflow has been converted into a working workflow document. We'll put in our passage, Ephesians 2, 8 through 9, and we'll click the verse and run the report. Now you can see what's going on here. Logos has, in a sense, created these cards for us. And now we've got the report. We can click the triangle next to the major step to minimize it if we need it. The little colored circle tells us if we've touched this step. And there we go. So now we can click theology, and we've got the references. Pretty handy. Now we could click search all biblical theologies, and it'll open up the search window and search all those resources. Notice that right now this is just showing us the search results. If we wanted to put notes in here, we have to go back to the three-dot menu, the option menu, and choose edit this workflow. And what we could do is we could add question and answer. That's what I like to use. And we can grab the handle at the right, three dots, and we can move this up. So we click the three dots, click move up, click the three dots, move up. There we go. Now let's run the report. So I'll click done. Okay, there's my observations. So I type in what I want, and as soon as I'm done typing, Logos inserts a note. Very important. When you click the drop-down triangle, it says open in notes. Now, I want to do this because I want to show you how Logos works here. So let me close this down, click the triangle, open in notes. There's my note file. Now, very important. Notice, in fact, let me right-click on the tab for this note file and choose open in a floating window. I'm going to maximize this so you can see what's going on. So there's my note, but this is really important. Notice that Logos has created a personal notebook named after my workflow. Workflow : webinar, 2 parentheses, with the passage. So if I were to run this again, let me do this with a different passage. Let's say Ephesians 2:10. Press enter and do some new notes. New note. And click at the right, the note, open in notes. And again, right-click on the tab, choose Open in Floating Window. You'll see that it's a different notebook. Very important you understand the difference. Now, if I click on Notebook icon here, click on the search icon and just put in Workflow, I can find my workflow. There it is, Webinar 2, Ephesians 2:8-9, Webinar Ephesians 2:10. So I can go back to that one. There's all the data, and if I click on that note, I can get in there. So all the notes that you create in the workflow are stored in one single notebook file, though you may have multiple notes in there. So just be aware of that connection. I'm not a big fan of the workflow because I can accomplish all this and more with the custom guide. So what's the advantage of the workflow? Really two. One is you can really systematize your step-by-step process down to specific major steps and minor steps. Second is you can embed all the information into a single note file if that's what you like to do. But again, I always call this the training wheels because eventually you want to get off of this and move to your custom guides, custom collections, and then put the notes either in a note file or a Word document. All right, let's go ahead and click the X to close the tab on this one.